I know that I said in a previous module, job boards suck, but honestly, they should make up about 20% of your efforts. And there's a big difference between the most well known and common job boards and the ones that not as many people are using, and there's a lot of value on there. Just so we're on the same page, there are tons of job boards. Every single country in the world has its favorite and most well known job board. That goes for a country like Denmark, which is 5.8 million people, to the United States with 350 million ish people. There's local, there's international, there's stuff tailored to startups, there's VCs, which I'm going to show some really interesting angles, there's remote job boards, and yeah, then you get into like university stuff. Honestly, there's a ton of niche stuff, and I'll show that in a minute. But let me just break down some of the materials that I have put together that it took a lot longer than I care to admit, but I think there's just so much value in this. So let's go through the clusters or collections of job boards. So the first one is kind of the biggest job board collection for the average person that wants to get a job in Denmark. Bear in mind, super interesting, some of these job boards require you to have a MIT ID or a government ID in order to apply. So that keeps out a lot of internationals. Not all, but some. There are international job boards that allow you to filter by individual country, which I absolutely encourage you to do. These are the biggest and most well known ones that most people use within Europe. There's startup job boards. And then, more interestingly, there are VC job boards. So, a VC is a venture capital firm that basically is trying to get their investments lots more talent and lots more momentum so they can get a return on investment. So, one of the things that I often encourage people to do is make sure to search through these things because what'll happen is somebody within the company may end up posting thinking that this is immediately going to graft on to all of the other international job boards, and it doesn't. It means it just got posted on their internal server, which eventually may be picked up by their venture capital firm. So for me, I'm looking up marketing. And great. So there's 281 jobs specifically to my function, what I do in a company. That's 10,000 plus more jobs than most people are aware of. And honestly, there's lots of awesome tech jobs. These companies will likely pay more, have a higher likelihood of allowing you to work remotely, but I would say if you're trying to be based in Europe, you don't always have the ability to do it with these. But there's always workarounds, right? So you can work fully remote under a digital nomad visa, and this is your ticket out. Just depends on how you want to play the game, but man, there's a lot of opportunities in here, and these are some of the most well known VC funds that have job boards. There's remote job boards, and then there's some of the local universities. Those are probably for more entry level. I wouldn't even mess with Facebook groups. They're a lot more like manual labor type stuff. Don't bother. Cool. So that's one list. There's a smaller list that I put together, and it is what it is. I don't think it's the best thing in the world, but this is basically your ability to go in and check out. After that, maybe your niche is mine. You're in blockchain. I could tell you without any hesitation that there are a number of European capitals that are non existent in certain niches, and blockchain, crypto, Web3 is one of them. But I've put in a bunch of these just for the sake of doing it because why not? If you want to become a venture capitalist, there are certain job boards that advertise roles for being a VC, which, if you ask me, is the easiest job, which requires zero intellect to do. No offense if you're a VC, but you're probably not watching this anyways. Moving along, there's HR tools in terms of a site search. That's literally the next module, so we're just going to go on to that one in a bit. There's freelance websites. Freelance websites allow you to potentially make a little extra cash, broaden your resume and your portfolio while also considering whether or not you actually want a full-time job because maybe you're killing it as a freelancer. So there's a bunch of marketplaces here. I have made money in the past using these marketplaces. They're totally hit or miss. Just take it with a grain of salt. If you're into the blockchain space, there are lots of freelance platforms within there as well. There's platforms that are freelance marketplaces specific to certain types of vocations, whether it's marketing, design, you name it. There's lots of good stuff in there. So moving on. If you are interested in the startup space, which I would encourage you to be because I think that'll give you the best possible chance of moving abroad from the United States or elsewhere around the world in order to get a job at a European company, then this is a interesting route to take. So these are newly funded startups that are potentially at a stage where they are ready to massively grow. So if a company has received 17 million $500,000 in the last week, chances are they're probably going to be hiring lots and lots of people. So I would then connect with people from that company. Hey, congrats on the funding. Here's my background. I would love to come work for you guys. I can do this, this, and this. You'd be surprised how well that works. And there's lots of different ways to do that. And you can see it. There's lots of companies that have just gotten funding as of today is the 7th of April, and this is backdated on the 3rd. So something to consider there. I'm going to keep going. There's a few other like really nice things in here that I don't think most people know about. So there are lists that allow you to discover companies. Specifically within Denmark, there are startup listing websites like the Hub. Other European countries use one of many of these, so finding companies that way is a really interesting way to do it. There's lots of different websites that allow you to filter, sort, and discover companies by certain filters. I would say if you're into that, then that is probably this exercise. And we'll do this later, by the way. You're able to discover companies using free B2B software as a service tools. My favorite is Apollo for this because it gives you a ton of filters. We will do this together in a future module, I promise. But just be aware that there's like a crazy amount of value in here. If companies are being talked about in a very positive light, like they're making lots of news stories because of either patents that have come to fruition, new government contracts, you name it, that is an indicator that there's going to be lots and lots of hiring. These are what I call spark moments, and we're covering that really soon as well. There's competitors. So if you find a company you really want to work for and they're not hiring, then use one of the discovery tools here that allow you to find companies that are similar to the one that you're looking at. Super interesting stuff. Some are free, some are paid, but yeah. Then there's lots of email discovery tools, which is very similar to what I just showed you. Email outreach is basically what I just showed you. And then there's LinkedIn job search tools that allow you to basically filter and discover that way. There are lots and lots and lots and lots of different ways of making this happen. And I think the challenge is that most people go to one or two job boards and cross their fingers. End of rant. Okay, so I've talked about a lot of niche job boards. Watch this video and tell me how niche this stuff can get. So honestly, if you're not looking, then obviously that's probably the problem. Moving on. One of the best pieces of advice I can give you within this course is be early. Be the first to apply. If you're able to filter any job board that you're looking at by most recent, this gives you a huge advantage. Anybody applying within the first 72 hours significantly increases their chance of potentially landing that job. The reality is, these applicant tracking systems, the ATSs, these things tend to put the first applicants at the very top and then everybody else below it. It's linear. That's how it works. So if you're applying to something that is a week old, 2 weeks old, a month old, 3 months old, it's unlikely that you're going to be seen by human eyes because they're already in the process of interviewing people by the time they haven't even looked at your resume. So always, always, always try to make sure that you are filtering by most recent job posts. Again, I have a very cool hack that I'll show you in the very next module that allows you to see specific jobs by function within a lot of ATS published jobs. Super interesting stuff. It's coming in the next module. It's hard to describe, but it's super interesting. Real quick, I just wanted to run you through some surprising job board best practices. There is a best timing kind of situation for most things. So, best day to apply, worst day to apply, best time to apply, morning or afternoon. Should you apply to jobs older than 2 weeks? I've kind of foreshadowed of this idea already. Surprising answers, maybe. The best day to apply, Monday or Tuesday. The reason for that is most of the jobs are going live Monday or Tuesday, and they're taking these different interviews and meetings later on in the week. The worst day to apply, usually if jobs are posted Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, then they are older jobs by the time you're getting to them on Saturday or Sunday. Not always, just sometimes. Best time to apply, morning or afternoon? Morning. So most of the HR folks are actually checking the resumes that come in the morning and having meetings in the afternoon. So you have a high likelihood of being seen and reviewed in the morning. Should you apply to jobs older than 2 weeks? I've already talked about this, but not really. A lot of ghost jobs out there. It is what it is. Job boards are just one route. Always filter by date. I've said that like 10 times now. I think we're good. Stay off or avoid putting a ton of time into job boards Wednesday to Sunday. It doesn't mean that it isn't useful. It just means there's less opportunities, but do what you like. I would never rely on one singular job board. Most people, it's either LinkedIn or Indeed, which baffles me. It's crazy. Tailor your resume. So I've already gone through how we do that. Pair this with outreach. So when you apply, we will reach out to 3 people on LinkedIn every single time. Avoid reapplying, even though you love the potential of that job and you really want to work for that company and it's a job description that's perfect for you. If they didn't respond the first time, they didn't respond the second time, why the hell are they going to respond the third time? Just move on. I have said this before. I will say this once more. Always apply via the company website. There's a lot of recruiting firms. There's a lot of third-party sites. There's even job aggregators that are purely in place just to collect data. So if you have applied directly through a recruiting firm, it's not actually reaching the company. It's reaching the recruiters who will then decide on their own time whether it makes sense to reach out to the company. That means you may have put a ton of effort into something for absolutely nobody to see. So I am encouraging people always try to find the company website and apply directly because that in all likelihood will get through their applicant tracking system. So at the very least, you know you might get seen. All right. A lot of information here, a lot of materials here. I really encourage you to go check them out. But before we do that, let's just go over a couple of quick job board statistics. So percent of jobs that are never advertised, percent of jobs that are found through networking, percent of jobs, percent of successful hires coming from job boards. 80% of jobs are never advertised. And that is an ongoing metric that has lots of contention, but let's move on. 60% of jobs are found through networking. So more than half of the jobs that you potentially could get will come from networking with people. People you know, people you don't know. Please put time into that alongside doing the job board stuff. So 19.12% of successful hires come from job boards. So it should potentially make up an equal amount of time that you are putting into your job search, meaning if it only makes up 20% of the market, put in 20% of the time, do other things. Cool. So the activity here, and I am gonna fly through this thing super fast, is registering for up to, I think 20 is a little bold, let's say 10. But realistically, you should check out 20 different job boards so that you are getting jobs from all sorts of different places and you're not putting all of your eggs in one basket, i.e., LinkedIn and Indeed and maybe ZipRecruiter. This is a surefire way of getting you more access to more potential jobs so that you can get the right job and do whatever it is that you want to do in life. But let's get into it.